What's up, YouTube? Capital G here, talking about the last two TCG exclusive cards coming out in Extreme Force. We knew most of what was going to be in this set because we have FA and we have Vendread currently running, and Konami revealed that there were going to be 4 new FA support cards coming out in this set. So most of us surmised, well, if there's going to be 4 FA cards, then there's probably going to be 4 Vendread cards. That turned out to be true. Those cards got leaked. I'll talk about those in another video, but the last 2 cards was basically anybody's guess. And to my surprise, these are actually Pendulum Monsters that Konami has given us. Now, the really big shock, and when I first saw this, I couldn't quite wrap my head around it. They're actually Pendulum Spirit Monsters. And when I heard that, I was like, wait, what? How the hell is this going to work? This is a situation very similar to Shino Birds, where Shino Birds are kind of like the exception to the rule, because obviously, like most spirit monsters cannot be special summoned. It's just one of the clauses with spirits. And, you know, during the end phase, they bounce themselves to your hand. Well, these cards can actually be special summoned, and that's really interesting. Now, these are 2 cards that are very similar in nature. The first one is Karate Spirit Kuno-O. Then the second one is Sumo Spirit Yokozuna, which actually reminds me of a wrestler from when I was a kid. And by the way, I apologize for the quality of the images you guys are looking at, or probably just the one image. These are leaked pictures, and for some reason, they always end up being the shittiest quality ever. I'm not sure if this is from Ready to Duel or if Italian Yu-Gi-Oh! Was the first one who posted it. I think it's something like Store in Mexico that opened up product early. I don't understand why they can't get like half decent pictures. We all got cell phones and smartphones in 2018. Whatever, let's just go ahead and break these cards down. So I said that the cards are very similar because they're both level 5, they're both wind attribute, they have the same exact stat line, 2400 attack and 1000 defense. When I first heard that stat line, man, like 2400, 1000, I was like, where have I heard that? Where have I heard that? Oh my goodness, those are Monarch stats. And I was like, whoa, okay, we might have ourselves the potential for a table 500 deck, because this card, like these monsters do work with tenacity of the Monarchs. They work with the fact that they're level 5, obviously it makes them natural, it makes them natural candidates for something like the Monarch Storm 4. You can search them out with the return of the Monarch, so there could be a possibility for some table 500 Monarch action, maybe Pendulum Monarchs. Now, that actually is kind of doubled down by the fact that these scales are 1 and 9 on these 2 guys, which are incredibly wide scales, so it means that you could even hypothetically play Pendulum Monarchs where you can Pendulum Erebus and Aether and Garage, and that might be kind of fun. But the pendulum effect of both of them is if a monster is pendulum summoned, or monsters, excuse me, if a monster or monsters is pendulum summoned, return this card from your pendulum zone to the hand. So this is not a optional effect, but I don't think that it's not necessarily a bad thing, because it does mean you can pendulum summon and then you can later normal summon these same monsters if you don't have anything left in your hand, so you can just kind of feel free to unload your entire hand. Also means maybe you can just set up for like Twin Twister if you have something that needs a discard outlet, and worst case scenario, if you just have to have cards in your pendulum zone, you can just put it back and then maybe play Wavering Eyes or something like that. Now, the monster effects are very similar. The first monster effect on Karate is if this card is normal summon, you can send to the graveyard all spell/trap cards your opponent controls that are in the same columns as cards in your pendulum zones. Then the second effect is just kind of if it's flip face up or if it's normal summon, during the end phase you bounce it to your hand because it's a spirit monster. That's a pretty cool effect because it can possibly get rid of 2 spells and traps your opponent controls, and it is non-targeting, by the way. It also does not destroy. So, God forbid spirals don't get hit and we have to deal with Spiral Resort for a little longer. This is a way to actually get rid of some of those cards without having to target them, which is very important, or have to actually destroy them. Now, keep in mind, it's only in those 2 columns. So, your opponent could probably easily play around this by putting their cards in like the center columns. It's only the outmost columns. And then the Sumo Spirit, he does kind of the same thing, but for monsters. It's actually only 1 monster. When this card is normal summon, you can send to the graveyard all monsters your opponent controls that are in the same column as one of your cards in the pendulum zone. So again, it only sends one of the, only one of the monsters. Okay, yeah, so this one only hits 1 monster, but some people would argue that hitting monsters and sending those to the graveyard is more impactful. This also means that it's not targeting as well, but again, it's very, very easy for your opponent to play play around this just by putting monsters in kind of like the center 3 columns where they will never be in the same column as the pendulum scales. You know, I like the fact that when you pendulum summon these guys, or if you special summon them, they do not bounce themselves back to the hand, so they don't have that you know, negative clause. But if you do normal summon them, then you get that kind of like Monarch level effect, and they do have Monarch stats. Now, if you did maybe splash them in with Monarchs, you would potentially be losing out on your domain lockdown, because, you know, these guys in the pendulum zones, or if they're ever destroyed, they go to the top of your extra deck. And even if you don't have an extra deck, when these guys go to the top of your extra deck, you got an extra deck now, so you might potentially lose your domain off of that. But, you know, maybe you can play some wacky ideas. And the cool thing is, because these guys are such wide scales, you know, 1 in 9, you could possibly run them in deck like Mythical Beasts. Mythical Beasts don't really pendulum summon that much because they don't have the scales to. All the monsters in the archetype, I think, are scale 5. Magispectors have really tight scales, Dino Mist as well. So some of these older archetypes, maybe they could splash these guys in for some, you know, wacky wide scales, and at the same time, maybe they might be able to normal summon these guys and get some nice effects off of that. So I like the idea of these monsters, how Konami's kind of combining, like, you know, pendulums and spirits into kind of, you know, these new creations, but they're also very reminiscent of like Monarchs and whatnot. So, you know, I'm pretty sure somebody will send me a table 500 replay or something like. Anyways, let me know what you guys thought in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already. Turn on that notification bell for daily videos.